In 2021, we filmed a future Army paratrooper crashing into a parked Humvee on the drop zone at Fort Moore, Georgia.
Hey sir, what are you doing?
Me?
Yeah.
Filming?
You can't. No.
Damn. I was scared. I was scared she might be dead, paralyzed, at least seriously injured. This is just one example of some of the most dangerous military jobs we've covered for our boot camp series. Miraculously, Davis got up and walked away, seemingly uninjured. I caught up to her a few moments later at a staging area and she was laughing. She even went on to do more jumps and graduated from Airborne school. But that was not the full story. About a year later, Davis began to experience pain that medical professionals traced back to the impact that happened when she made the collision with the Humvee on the drop zone that day. And in 2023, the West Point graduate was medically discharged from the Army. But this is what she told us right after the crash.
The medic checked me out. I didn't pull anything. I didn't tear anything. I didn't break anything. I was very grateful and also very conscious of the fact that I didn't hear a pop.
That may be due to the fact that Davis listened to this instructor's advice right before she crashed.
Keep your feet together.
Keeping the feet and knees together is an essential component of executing a safe landing after a jump.
Feet and knees together.
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 Keep your feet and knees together.
Feet and knees together.
It's a phrase heard ad nauseum at Airborne school. A 3-week course where the Army trains students to become paratroopers.
Throwing yourself out of an aircraft is not a natural thing, especially at an altitude of 1,250 feet. It is a feeling like nothing you have ever felt before.
Insider spent 5 days at Airborne school, where we observed different classes in the 3 phases of training.
Ground week is pretty much an introduction. When they land on the ground, what procedures they need to take, and it's just building that confidence and their equipment. Tower week is the second week, overcoming your fears of jumping. Jump week is the culminating event, you jumping out of the aircraft. You successfully make 5 jumps and you graduate Airborne school. Overall objective is to provide a capability to put a battalion-sized plus element in a location within 72 hours.
On day 1, students have to pass 2 physical assessments.
First group, get ready.
First,
Up.
the flex arm hang,
Uncross your feet.
where students must perform a pull-up and remain in place for 10 seconds.
Up.
This exercise requires the same technique and amount of upper body strength to perform what's known as a slip, where a paratrooper grabs handles on the harness called risers and pulls down to adjust the parachute's direction.
To really pull good slip, you're pulling, I think, 60% of your body weight.
If you cannot hook up to the incline cable, you are a reach assessment failure. Do you understand?
The second physical test assesses a student's ability to reach the cable they must connect to before jumping.
Extend your arms straight up. Straighten your fingers.
Being a smaller human, I was definitely nervous about that. But when I got there, I stretched my arm out as high as I could and realized, all right, I qualify. And that was a good feeling because I was a little bit nervous.
While most pass with ease, for some students, a failed reach assessment brings an end to their training before it officially begins. About 15,000 students enroll in Airborne school each year, and roughly 13,000 graduate. About 10% of students are female.
I'm 17, and so I joined right out of high school. My friends now, they're just graduating. They're just going to college. That's the new things that they're starting. And the things I wanted to start right out of high school is, saving people's lives and jumping out of planes.
The Army wants still more volunteers from its ranks for parachute duty.
Since 1940, paratroopers have been trained at the Fort Benning Army installation, which straddles the Alabama-Georgia border about 100 miles southwest of Atlanta.
Stand by for the jump light. That's it. 4 more trips like this one and the fledgling paratrooper gets his wings. His pay will be $50 a month more than regular soldiers of his rank.
Today, paratroopers still get extra pay. students who graduate from Airborne school get $150 per month added to their paycheck. Classified as hazardous duty incentive pay.
Are you gonna grab one parachute and one reserve?
Students use mock parachutes to learn how to safely don and rig them before a jump,
Airborne, walk all the way to the end.
marking the beginning of Ground Week.
Slap, step, kick, count.
The ground week phase gives you confidence in your competency.
If you're on the left door, your static line is in the left hand.
You don't have to be the strongest or the smartest.
Recover.
If you can remember to do very specific things at very specific times, you'll be fine.
These are your equipment rings. Below that, you have your saddle.
We teach them how to properly put on what's called a harness. Teach them how to rig it, the different components of the harness. Airborne, once you're finished and you're ready for inspection, come to me.
After donning and rigging the harness, an instructor inspects the student's work.
Hold, squat, turn, bend, recover, recover, recover.
Sergeant, what's up with the little glove tap?
So that's basically called the seal of approval. Cover. Basically, they have what's called 5 points of contact: the balls of the feet, the calf, the thigh, the buttocks, and the pull-up muscle. Recover. The 4th point of contact is the easier accessible part of the body that doesn't have anything to interfere as far as the harness itself. Recover. That 4th point of contact is that seal of approval that your equipment is good, I've checked it, and you're good to go. Green light. Oh, step, kick, count. Then they'll move to what's called the mock doors. So the mock doors is where they'll learn how to properly do individual exits from the aircraft. Kick, count, which is basically keeping those elbows tight, feet and knees together, knees slightly bent, and so on and so forth.
Green light, go.
The mock door prepares students for what it's like to jump, but not to land. Paratroopers land at speeds of about 13 miles per hour with a force comparable to jumping from a 9 to 12 foot wall, which is why they practice the parachute landing fall, or PLF, from a height of roughly 3 feet to develop a safe technique for landing.
Essentially, it is a choreographed movement of them creating a banana shape or a rocking chair shape. They do a small bunny hop off the wall. They hit the ground. They tuck their chin down in their chest, put their elbows high in front of their face. I like to concentrate on keeping their feet together so that there's more surface area for the impact of jumping out of the aircraft to absorb into, so that they can roll, getting them to bleed off the momentum so that they do not get injured.
It hurt. It was annoying falling over and over and over until you get it right. And even then, you have to fall more and more.
Land.
This is my life that's on the line, so I appreciate that stuff.
After PLFs, they move to the lateral drift apparatus, a zip line they slide across until they're ordered to let go and land.
It simulates the lateral drift that will happen in the air due to wind. So then they'll have more momentum to actually complete the parachute landing fall and kick it up and over.
Students use the suspended harness to practice pulling a slip.
So you would pull a slip in the direction that you want to go. So if you want to go to your front, to your left, you're going to pull a front left slip, as it would be all the way around all 4 risers.
The T-11 parachute is not technically steerable, but executing a slip is the only option for avoiding a collision.
Whether it's avoiding trees, other jumpers, they do work, and that's why we teach them here.
Doing it constantly, knowing which way to slip. So in the air, I'm confident which direction I'm going to go.
Everything taught during Ground Week is taken to a new height the following week.
Tower week, you're 34 feet off the ground. What are you gonna do? You know, nobody knows how they're gonna react when they're staring that door in the face. And I think everyone had that gut check, if you will, when they were up there. But once you send it, once you're jumping off, you're good.
Go.
The height of the tower is typically where a lot of people are going to show the panic and the fear of heights, and the tower is used to help them control that fear.
When you get up in that tower, everybody's excited. You walking up the stairs just like anybody else, but then now reality sets in when I'm standing up here 34 foot in the air, and now you asking me to jump out.
1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000.
They're going to kick out, creating the explosive power required for them to exit the aircraft, getting a good up 6, out 36-inch exit far away from the aircraft. 1,000, 2,000. As soon as their foot leaves the platform, they begin to count to 6,000.
1,000, 2,000, 3,000.
At the end of your 6,000 count, your main canopy will have fully deployed and has begun its inflation process and begun its descent to the ground.
You did everything right.
Students are observed and evaluated by instructors who critique them until they have developed an exit worthy of a live jump.
All right, do it again.
I actually jumped the mock tower 22 times just because I just had to perfect it and get it right. You got to kick out a certain amount to get far enough away, and that was probably the thing I struggled with the most.
The final exercise during Tower Week is the improved swing landing trainer, an opportunity to practice a parachute landing fall in a more realistic way.
It simulates the oscillation and downward movement that you would experience on a normal parachute jump. They will swing until they get into a good parachute landing fall position. In a true parachute landing fall, you are not looking at the ground, so you don't know when you're gonna hit. We don't tell them, I'm dropping you now. We just say, hold what you got, prepare to land. That way they know the ground will be coming soon, they just won't know when.
The instructor pulls a cable that causes the student to fall.
This is also the most dangerous course when it comes to the actual training. We've seen broken bones, we've seen concussions result from this training, more so than any other training.
Training culminates with Jump Week, where students apply everything they've learned in 5 different jumps from a live aircraft flying 1,250 feet off the ground. Jump Week begins with a jog to the airfield.
Running down here from the barracks, it's a very slow pace. I found out the purpose of that was to check to see if anyone had any injuries. And then it's a waiting game until you finally get to jump.
Students pick up their main and reserve parachutes, which have been meticulously packed and inspected by riggers. The team uses a 13-step process to pack about 75,000 parachutes a year for airborne students. If the riggers discover any deficiencies in a parachute, it is removed from circulation.
What was the deficiency with that guy?
A hole in the apex.
Hole in the apex?
Yeah.
Students head to the harness shed, where instructors inspect their parachutes.
So they go through five rounds of inspections by the time they exit the aircraft. Just to verify, re-verify, triple verify, make sure that everything is in order.
Everything from checking the helmet and the actual T11 harness and the parachute for any deficiencies, any cuts, frays, any twists, anything that could injure the jumper or cause malfunction.
After the inspections, students wait and wait and wait. Their jumps often delayed for hours by weather and air traffic control.
I will say, the harness shed is not fun. You can't talk, you can't go to the bathroom, you just have to sit there in our nice comfy harnesses until you get to jump.
Finally, the students get the signal that it's time to board the C-130 Hercules that will fly them to the drop zone. The C-130 flies toward Fryer Drop Zone on the Alabama side of the Chattahoochee River.
When you're sitting there waiting, it's like it's not real yet. When they open the doors, it's like, oh, you know. If your heart's not already beating, that's when it starts, because you're just about to go.
Before the students jump, 2 instructors go to assess wind conditions.
So they'll jump out, not pull a slip, see where the wind's taking them, and then we'll send that wind data up to the aircraft.
On the ground, a smoke bomb ignited in a barrel provides an additional sense of wind direction and speed. The students hook their static lines to the anchor line cable. This connection will open the chute upon jumping.
It's one of those things that you don't know that much about it until you do it. And it's not as scary as people think it is. We all have fears. A lot of folks are scared of heights. You know, you hear the stories, possible fatalities, and you allow that to get in your head. But once you get here to the school, you'll see that it's nothing like you ever thought it would be. That 18 to 20 something seconds you have falling out of the sky, you're in your happy place.
The most surprising thing that I experienced when I exited the aircraft was the calm. It's like slipping into the void, and there's absolute silence, and it's such a cool feeling.
Keep your feet together.
But accidents can occur.
I knew I was coming for the Humvee. I tried to calm down as much as I could, keep my slip, cover my face, and just wait for what happened next.
Had First Lieutenant Davis landed just a few inches to the left, her face and head could have collided with this mirror on the side of the Humvee.
Mentally, I was back in my plebe combative class at West Point. There's a point in the class where you are going to get hit in the face, and you have to prepare for it. And I thought, I'm going to get hit, and I have to prepare.
When you jump, you can't have a clear drop zone. We have to have vehicles out there for emergency purposes, and the best you can do is pull a one-riser slip opposite the direction of the hazard, feet knees together, prepare to land.
Our next jump was the night jump, so you can imagine a somewhat traumatizing experience occurring, and then I was really trying to just remind myself that I'm good at this and just have faith in the equipment.
So how did that one go?
It went flawlessly. It was great.
Feet knees together.
Flawless landings are rare during the final jump, when students jump with about 35 pounds of combat gear added to their load.
It was really nice to get it over with on a combat jump, which that isn't fun because you're carrying all the equipment, but once you get out of the aircraft and you realize that being a smaller person kind of aids in bringing you down to the ground a little bit slower, it all pays off.
All right, comes in for a nice target landing.
Friends and family gather to see the newest class of airborne qualified soldiers graduate after 3 weeks of training.
What you see is a student that comes here. They don't know what to expect. They chose to do something that probably over 1/3 of the Army won't do. It's something to have this wing on your chest. You have proven that, hey, you jumped out of a moving aircraft. So their confidence just gets greater and greater at each phase of the course.
I was afraid of heights, but managed to step up to the plate, jump out the plane, and now I can say that I'm airborne qualified.
I've definitely grown in confidence in myself. I'm a signal officer, so I work on computers, and it's very different having a trust that a modem will function versus a parachute opening. I'm the last military member in my immediate family to become airborne qualified, so as my mom would say it, I'm no longer a dirty, nasty leg. So that's fun.
What is the leg thing?
So a leg is someone who don't have airborne wings. You can have everything, you ain't got airborne wings, you're a leg. So that's what we call you, a leg. 376 airborne students that just graduated, no longer legs.
At U.S. Army Air Assault School, soldiers don't just learn how to rappel out of helicopters. They also learn a process known as sling load, where they connect objects and vehicles to helicopters that take them to another destination. In order to attach the objects, these soldiers have to get under a helicopter that hovers at about 8 feet off the ground. I would know because I had to go underneath one myself to get this shot. That's me in the blue jacket there running away. This is Army Air Assault School, where students train to insert themselves and equipment into combat using helicopters.
As we start looking towards the future fight, large nation states like in North Korea, where you need to be able to go behind enemy lines, deliver formations of air assault soldiers who could seize objectives, destroy enemy formations. That's the concept.
Air assault! Air assault!
All air assault qualified soldiers have to graduate from a program known as the Army's 10 Toughest Days.
Who's gonna get it? Who's gonna get it? Air assault!
It's physically demanding, and also it's very mentally demanding. A lot of attention to detail. Some of the hardest things they've done in their lives in these 10 short days.
I definitely think it lives up to the 10 toughest days. There's definitely nights where I was very nervous, and good reason to be nervous.
Insiders spent 4 days inside Air Assault School.
Air assault! Air assault!
Where we observe students at various stages of training.
Air assault!
The first phase is an academic phase where the students learn the basics of aircraft capabilities and air assault planning. The second phase, the sling load phase, which is how you move equipment around the battlefield under a helicopter. And the final phase is the rappelling phase.
Training happens here at the Sabalovsky Air Assault School, inside the Fort Campbell Army installation that straddles the Tennessee-Kentucky border. It's home to the 101st Airborne Division, nicknamed the Screaming Eagles.
110, Burke, first name Aaron.
But before day 1 of Air Assault School begins, all students have to survive what's known as Day 0.
Roster 3, Staff Sergeant Rivas.
The test is designed to weed out students who aren't ready for the challenges ahead.
114.
It begins before sunrise, when students form up to receive their roster numbers.
222, Holly.
The first test is an early morning inspection of their gear.
Earplugs, highlighter, lacking pen, 1 gallon size Ziploc style bag.
Students are given a list of items they're expected to have in their rucksacks.
Good.
If one single item is missing during the inspection, they're automatically dropped. 17 students in this group were dropped because they were missing items in their packing list.
A lot of the things that get people dropped is not paying attention to detail, and that's pretty much what Air Assault School is about. Because it comes to the littlest thing can get someone hurt or injured, and we just want to make sure that they take it seriously.
After the inspection, a 2-mile run with an 18-minute time limit, followed by a quick smoke session, which gets the students warmed up before the main event, the obstacle course.
That's the first moment where we filter out who is prepared to be here and who wants to be here.
The course contains 9 different obstacles to test students' strength, agility, and confidence. 7 of them are considered minor, and students are allowed to fail 1 without being dropped.
All right, this is a major.
The last 2 are major obstacles, and students must pass both, otherwise they have failed Day 0.
Air assault!
First, the aptly named Tough One.
Go ahead on the right.
A multi-part obstacle that starts with a 3-meter rope climb.
There you go.
And then tests balance, along with upper and lower body strength at a height of over 30 feet.
If you're afraid of heights, it can be very frightening, and if you don't know how to climb a rope, you're just going to be out of luck.
All right, Air Assault, what's your roster number? All right, take this over to the white truck right there.
You're kind of gassed once you get to that point, so it's all technique.
The second major obstacle is the 35-foot-tall confidence climb.
I have a fear of heights, so the confidence climb was definitely one that was mentally challenging for me.
Air assault!
Kept on pushing. You gotta push through.
For students who successfully conquer the obstacle course, Day 0 is complete. Of the 292 students who started Day 0, 42 failed to complete it. By this time, these students have worked up an appetite, and they'll need their strength before the Army's 10 toughest days officially begin.
Air assault!
Air Assault!
Air assault! Air assault! Air assault! Air assault! Air assault!
Why does everybody say air assault so much?
So that goes back to the culture. We're building the culture both in the division and throughout the air assault community.
Air assault! Roger that!
Anytime they're being addressed by an instructor, they'll usually say air assault instead of Roger or yes.
Great job, dude.
Air assault. We will refer to students as air assault.
Let's go, air assault!
Air assault!
And really just when you're having a good time and you're motivated, you pass another soldier, you might say air assault to that soldier.
Air assault, air assault, air assault.
Do you ever find yourself just saying air assault when you're off?
All the time. Yeah, my wife's probably sick of it.
Every year, about 5,000 students graduate from air assault school. About 18% are female. And the students come from a wide range of backgrounds.
We absolutely have a large scope of soldiers that come here, not only Army, we have Air Force, Marines, Navy that come to the schoolhouse.
Students range from privates who just completed basic training to experienced officers who want to learn new skills.
So I'm 40 years old. I wanted to come out to the air assault course to see if I can do it, number one, and then to improve my skill set as a helicopter pilot.
I'm a veterinarian, and so this isn't something we get to do every day. I signed up for air assault school to get a little bit of a challenge, to kind of diversify myself as far as what I do in the Army.
There's only one way off that bird. Lay it down, all right?
On day one, students begin the first phase of training, known as combat assault, much of which happens in the classroom.
And your air assault handbook, starting on page 80. Get there.
Phase one is giving them a foundation in basic air assault operations.
You will have the basic knowledge on how to select, mark, control a helicopter landing zone.
So it's a fair amount of memorization, a little bit of math, and then just understanding the process that goes into air assault planning.
Move aircraft right. Move aircraft right. Execute.
Phase one moves outside the classroom when students practice hand and arm signals used to guide helicopters in a landing zone.
Black shirt says, release sling load, execute.
The instructors use a game called Black Shirt Says,
Black shirt says.
similar to Simon Says, to test the students on their knowledge of the signals and their attention to detail during the commands.
Recover. If you moved, you're out. I did not say black shirt says recover.
The hand and arm signal's purpose is simply to guide the aircraft to place that aircraft over the load so that that hooker team can then hook up, move out of the way, and then the aircraft can then pick up and take the sling load set wherever it needs to go.
You might want to get down here in a minute first.
Phase two of training is focused on sling load operations, where students learn how to prepare a heavy payload and hook it to a helicopter, which descends to as low as 8 feet off the ground during the operation.
That's kind of our, if we want to call it our bread and butter here at 101st, where we can go deep behind enemy lines and resupply soldiers, whether that be beans and bullets or, aircraft or artillery pieces. We take pride in that.
Students learn the rigorous process of preparing and inspecting 6 different loads.
Here in phase two, they'll learn how to rig whatever equipment that they're going to send, inspect that, and they'll sign off on an inspection form, which the pilots need for their sling load operation.
Now you're going to check your hood latch.
Sling load operations was challenging. That's definitely the most mentally demanding, hands-on part of the course.
So when you lift this up, you lift it up as such.
We learn it rapidly and we're tested on it rapidly, but luckily the instructors here give us so much time to practice.
So we have one deficiency already, right?
We have a wide range, up to about 24 deficiencies that we could use on a given load.
The arrow go towards the aircraft. So would this be a deficiency?
We'll show them clean loads so they understand how the whole process looks. Then we give them dirty loads. Dirty loads have all the deficiencies.
Then you ensure that your chains aren't twisted, all right, and they're wrapped one time and one time only. So what do we have right here? Deficiency, okay, because it's wrapped more than once.
So then they can work through and say, oh, okay, I see how this is different, or this looks weird, this is the wrong type of whatever. That way they have full confidence come test day that they'll pass the hands-on portion.
Everybody good?
Aerosol.
Any questions?
All right, good luck. Don't suck. Begin.
Students have to pass a 50-question written test with a minimum score of 70%.
You have 2 minutes to identify 3 out of 4 deficiencies on the Humvee. Remember, you only have 5 responses.
They inspect the rigging of 6 different payloads and have to identify 3 different deficiencies on each.
Efficiency, first response.
The students are timed during each inspection.
Stop!
If they fail to identify the deficiencies, they're classified as a no-go.
Now you're no-go on the Humvee.
And are given a second chance to get it right. If they fail twice, students have to start their training all over and repeat day 0.
There are a lot of students that get dropped because there are so many finite details. But when they fail, they'll get a retest and a retrain so that they have a second chance in order to get through it again.
Students who pass the inspection then perform a sling load operation with a live aircraft. This group's objective: to attach the A-22 cargo bag to a hook on the bottom of a CH-47 helicopter.
That was super fun because we've learned all about all the equipment that we can sling load from these aircraft. That was rewarding to be able to actually hook up a load and watch them take off.
While part of Phase 2 is spent under a helicopter, in Phase 3, students spend time on one, but not for long. The last phase is focused on rappelling. Students first master their safety equipment.
They all are taught how to tie a hip rappel seat or a Swiss rappel seat. They're tested on it and they have to do it in 90 seconds.
Within Phase 3 are 3 separate stages: rappelling from a 14-foot ramp, a 34-foot tower, and finally 60 feet down from a live aircraft.
Phone. We go to the ramp.
Good lock, unlock, and lower yourself.
They do a falling procedure just to get them comfortable with going down. It's really more of making them know that their equipment will hold them.
After that, students move to the 34-foot tower, where they practice rappelling on the open and wall sides.
Next follow, step forward, kneel down, hook up. Get ready. You gotta step down to the top of the letters. Do you understand?
Yes.
Go.
You do the wall, where you're just learning the basics because there's still a surface there that you're bouncing off of.
There you go. Keep going.
It's very scary. You look out and you see how far down you actually are. I feel like the tower is actually more frightening than the helicopter.
Go.
It's trusting your equipment, trusting your rappel master. It's kind of out of our hands at that point, and so that can be a little bit frightening.
And then you do the open side rappel because that'll simulate what it's like out of an aircraft, where you're just using your brake hand and nothing else to control your descent to the ground.
The idea behind it is once you're at 34 foot, you can't really tell how high you are. So then when they get 60 foot in an aircraft, they can't really tell much of a difference.
Then, it's time for the final part of Phase 3, rappelling out of a live aircraft. A steady rain didn't hinder students from boarding the CH-47. Once airborne, it hovers in place at an altitude of 60 feet.
In a CH-47, we can fit 30 students in at a time. They're all hooked to a monkey tail or a daisy chain, if you will. It hooks them into the aircraft, so if the aircraft were to go down, we have a secondary safety device inside the aircraft that they're hooked to, so nobody falls out of the bird. The rappel master that's hooking them up will call them forward, make sure that that student is hooked up correctly. Once that rappel master makes eye contact with that student, then they stand up and he'll push them to the edge of the aircraft and then he'll send him.
Two soldiers on the ground, known as belay personnel, control the ropes from the bottom.
Just in case somebody becomes a fallen rappeller or can't control their descent, they would be able to pull the ropes, stop them, and they'd be able to control their descent for them all the way down to the ground safely.
Their job is even more difficult due to sustained gusts coming from the rotor wash.
It's a lot of work for the belay men. They get a good workout over the 3 hours they're under the aircraft.
I was actually the first one in my group to jump. And as I was getting closer to the edge, I will admit it did feel a little surreal and I did get a little nervous, but just being confident, knowing that you are going to land on the ground within the next like 20 seconds. It was really fun, super exciting.
Turn your red lens on.
Before dawn on graduation day, students faced the culminating event of Air Assault School, a 12-mile ruck march that each student must complete in less than 3 hours while wearing about 40 pounds of combat gear.
3, 2, 1.
The 12-mile ruck is more of a mental game, I would say. Just being able to push yourself through all 12 miles.
Let's go, Air Assault!
It's hard, but it's nice to have your other teammates around you kind of encouraging you as you're doing it.
Hey, great job, guys. 6-0, Air Assault!
Great job. Sometimes that's all it takes. One guy or gal to really put themselves out there and let them know that you care.
Great work, man. Good job.
You genuinely do care and that you're proud of them, right? And that really sparks that motivation and get that soldier to go that last mile, that last 6 feet in some cases.
You motivated? Another 10 more, let's go! Another 10? We can make that happen.
No, not playing.
Okay. Everybody wants to be a gangster, so it's time to do gangster shit, right?
Yeah.
All right, undo your ruck and dump it out.
After the ruck march, students have to pass one final inspection of their rucksacks.
ACH your chin strap, jacket, extreme wet weather, and patrol cap.
Just one more opportunity to get dropped before graduation.
Earplugs, highlighter.
Upon inspection, this student told an instructor he didn't have his earplugs.
I'm gonna walk back here, go back around, and then you need to look in your gear and you need to find them by the time I get back. Otherwise, you're gonna be a drop.
Once the instructor returned, the student had managed to find them.
Got your earplugs in your gear? Air Assault on.
No students were dropped during the final inspection.
All right, congratulations. You're Air Assault qualified.
Of the 231 students that started with this class on day 0, 191 finished the course. Friends and family gather to see the newest class of Air Assault qualified soldiers graduate on the final day of training.
You now have the crucial skills to maximize the effective use of helicopter assets in both training and combat missions. Wear your Air Assault wings with pride. Your peers, without them, will be envious of your accomplishments.
It's almost a transformation of sorts, right? You have a soldier that's timid at times and not sure if they really want to be here. You fast forward 10 days and you have a soldier that's chest is a little bit further out, stand a little bit taller, and they're absolutely proud to earn that Air Assault badge.
First to fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the Army was rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the Army goes rolling along.
Meanwhile, a new class of students is just beginning day 1 of Air Assault training to find out if they have what it takes to survive the Army's 10 toughest days.
The Army goes rolling along. Parade, rest. Air Assault!
The Osprey is one of the most technically advanced aircraft flown by the military, but it can also be dangerous, with more than 60 crew members killed in crashes.
This is the MV-22 Osprey, flown by the United States Marine Corps. With a unit cost of about $84 million, it's the world's first production tilt-rotor aircraft, which means it takes off and lands vertically like a helicopter.
All right, gotta go fast.
But flies like a traditional turboprop airplane.
We don't need that runway to land on, and we don't need any type of air traffic control agency to get us there. We can do it ourselves.
When grounded, its rotor blades fold into itself, making it small enough to travel on naval carriers.
The primary role is what we call assault support. What that means is that we're good at carrying people and stuff places.
When you're good to kiss off and maintain 1,500 feet over the range.
Insider spent a day at Marine Corps Air Station New River in North Carolina to find out what it takes to fly the Osprey. Before flying an Osprey, Marine Corps pilots must receive a 4-year college degree and attend flight school to learn the basics.
After that, you gain your wings and you show up at the fleet, and you get about 2 months, 3 months to learn how to fly the Osprey.
Osprey pilots spend 20 hours training in a simulator that was off limits to our cameras.
I wanted to have a plane that was at the forefront of where the Marine Corps wanted to send things. Turns out that this was exactly the right plane for me. Today when we go fly, we're going to do a whole bunch of various flight profiles. We're going to go and shoot tail gunnery, and then we transition over to doing confined area landings.
The training mission begins with a briefing in the squadron ready room.
We're going to take off out of New River as a section. For the departure, it's going to be a standard vertical takeoff to climb up to our en route altitude of 3,500 feet.
Safety is one of the most important topics of any Osprey mission briefing.
3 U.S. Marines are missing right now off the coast of Australia.
There have been 33 accidents, resulting in 42 reported deaths since the Osprey's first flight in 1989.
The MV-22 originally, in its induction phases and in testing, unfortunately ended up having a few accidents along the way, things that were worked out essentially over the years.
The Osprey became operational in 2007, and since then, safety components like nacelles and software have been redesigned and reconfigured.
I have over 800 flight hours on this plane with 0 issues. That's in no small part to the maintenance efforts that are put forth by the Marines every day here.
Crew chiefs at New River work as plane maintainers when they're not aiding on missions.
Even the smallest things on the Osprey have to be looked at and are kept in good working order. We make sure that we're flying the safest aircraft possible.
Before every flight, pilots and crew do a walkthrough of the Osprey to ensure everything is in working order.
This is the Osprey, just a big overview here. Each engine provides you 6,150 shaft horsepower. So what that means for me up front is that I can go from 0 to 280 knots and climb from the surface all the way up to 25,000 feet. This is the air-to-air refueling probe. This thing sticks out and lets me plug and refuel off of all kinds of different refueling assets and extends my range out beyond 3 hours, out to all the way my limits that I can just stay awake for. These big nacelles here contain the engine itself, and then also will contain all the different gearbox systems and different accessory drive systems that keep my aircraft powered up and flying both hydraulically and electrically. We have seats all up and down the left and right side that hold 24 troops, and then any type of cargo that we can do here. We have a lot of redundancy. We have 3 hydraulic systems, we have 3 flight control computers, we have 4 generators that'll operate, and they can all back each other up. So if any one component fails, there's numerous layers of backup and redundancy that allow this plane to keep flying and keep fighting regardless of what happens.
It's a gorgeous day to go fly.
The downwash coming off of the Osprey is about the same as a Category 2 hurricane.
170 at 9er, good takeoff. Clear for takeoff, runway 19, Elvis 11 flight.
Takeoff begins with the rotors in the vertical position lifting the plane off the ground. After reaching the desired altitude, pilots convert the aircraft to airplane mode.
I have what's called a thumb wheel. On the throttle, there is a little knob that I just move with my thumb. It's as easy as this. It takes little to no effort from me. What that means inside the plane and what the plane is doing is that I have 3 different hydraulic systems that are controlling what's called conversion actuators. And these conversion actuators are gigantic screws. And those screws twist and make the whole nacelle structure move up and down.
The crew flies north to begin the first exercise of the mission, firing the Osprey's machine gun at targets on the ground.
On the MV-22, we have a ramp-mounted weapon system. We'll be firing the M240 Delta today, which is a 7.62 by 51 caliber belt-fed machine gun. The ramp-mounted weapon system is used in a defensive role as we're carrying troops and cargo into an area. If we're engaged, we can effectively suppress that enemy fire or threat.
The standard 4-person Osprey crew consists of 2 pilots and 2 crew chiefs.
So I'll be leading to the aircraft through the flight profile.
Control level came back up. We're gonna go ahead and try going fast again.
I serve as the link between the pilots and the back of the plane. That's between our cargo, anyone we're carrying. I shoot the gun, you name it.
I suggest converting to see if we can get some of that back. Yep, 1 second. Copy.
Sergeant Leneve will also be helping train an additional member on today's flight.
I'm Lance Corporal Trantham, and I'm a crew chief on the V-22 Osprey. Every day is a new challenge and a new opportunity to learn something.
Today we're going to be simulating engagement by a surface-to-air threat, which is going to be a missile system, and we're going to attempt to suppress that threat.
All right, Leneve, we're coming across the runway target now. There's multiple vehicles and stuff on the runway. All the fires are going to be north of the runway, so off the left side of the aircraft right now. Copy. I've got a target. Contact 2 targets, steel targets.
Crew chiefs trained to aim and fire the M240 Delta using the plane's forward momentum.
It definitely takes a lot of concentration with the effects of your forward momentum. Getting the rounds to hit your target, you have to aim in a certain way so that your rounds hit with the proper momentum.
If their target is to the left of the plane, they aim low and left. If they shoot off the right side of the plane, they aim high and right.
We're going to basically be looking for good impacts on the target.
In the training mission's second phase, the crew flies over a field to practice landing in a confined area without a runway.
So we'll do what we call tactical straight-ins, where we go from airplane mode, going 240 knots and bring it all the way to a hover inside the zone.
So it's going to take us from this en route airplane, and then the computer and the software, the automation is going to fly the plane all the way along a course of flight and bring us into a hover over a specific landing point. So it's pretty cool.
Forward thrust comes off the propellers. That generates lift over the wing, just like any traditional fixed-wing aircraft.
Then, pilots redirect that thrust by converting into helicopter mode.
We start shifting that lift vector backwards to slow ourselves down, or forward to accelerate ourselves, and we go from there.
After completing confined area landings and takeoffs, the focus shifts to the third exercise of the mission: training crew chiefs how to measure the plane's distance to the ground with just their eyes.
Good guys, traffic start 10 o'clock, high, no factor.
They have to calibrate their eyes to give accurate distance calls to the deck, and that's a challenge, and it changes based on what you're expecting to see.
Less than 50.
40.
Be all right.
30 clear to land.
They need to happen quickly. They need to say exactly the right thing at the right time so that we know what we need to do and take that information on as like actionable information. She'll get it down during a daytime landing inside a grassy zone, and then we'll take her and we'll fly her at night, and we'll put on NVGs, night vision goggles on her, and she'll have a 40-degree field of view looking through toilet paper tubes, and then all of that distance estimation that she's worked on starts to go away. That's part of the training that we work with them on.
Flying the Osprey for the Marine Corps has meant to me that I can be operationally employed in a very wide range of mission profiles. As we shift over to the Pacific Theater, what we're dealing with are longer transits over water without land bases for us to operate from.
The Osprey is also used to provide humanitarian aid.
Personally, I've done hurricane relief operations in Puerto Rico, and I've been able to deliver food and water to people that have needed it. We were able to land in zones, baseball fields all across the island. The people were writing help in their yards and stones and trash to get the Ospreys to come in and land, and we were able to bring food and water and medical supplies all over the island. Today was great. It was a good flight. A lot of the future operation concepts of the Marine Corps are going to focus on the Osprey, doing more of what it does and doing it better.
I'm actually applying to the Naval Academy right now because I am interested in becoming a pilot. If I get accepted, I'll have 4 more years in school and graduate and commission as an officer.
The whole way that the Marine Corps trains is to add more assets and be able to bring a more complicated fight to the battlefield. We're just a small aspect and a small piece of it, but that's what we bring to the fight.
It's not hard to see why working on a submarine can be dangerous. In 2022, we went inside the Navy's submarine school to find out more about the physical and psychological risks that submariners face. These Navy sailors are training for a worst-case scenario: how to escape from a submarine and safely ascend to the ocean's surface.
Are you okay?
It's one of the techniques they learn at the Navy's submarine school that could one day make the difference between life and death.
There is no turning back. Once you make that dive and you're on your mission, you can't just bail out. So you got to be committed.
Training happens here at the Navy's Basic Enlisted Submarine School, or BESS, located about halfway between Boston and New York. Every year, more than 5,000 students attend the school. 8 weeks of training that prepare them for life on a submarine. And the danger that comes with it.
They will see real flooding situations. They will actually see a real fire and go through a real submarine escape.
Okay?
So that way the first time that they ever might have to deal with it isn't in an actual casualty.
Just lost my grip. I'm saying, hold on. Hey, relax, breathe normally, don't try and clear your ears, all right?
It's hard to believe a year ago I was sitting in an apartment doing jack squat, wasting time, and now I'm doing about as cool a thing as you could possibly do.
With life-threatening hazards like flooding always a concern, why would someone want to work on a submarine in the first place?
I watched a lot of submarine movies growing up, and I've always thought they were really cool.
I thought that it was cool that they went down under for so long and nobody really knows where they go.
I was interested in the submarine force because going underwater is unnatural, and that's cool.
I knew it was something I wanted to do. It's something challenging, something a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do.
Submariners make more money.
It's true. Enlisted sailors who qualify for submarine duty make $85 more per month, increasing with years in service.
From the red line to the other red line.
The Navy says recruiting new submariners today is challenging, and it offers a signing bonus of up to $40,000 for volunteers. But not all sailors qualify to work on a sub.
They have to have a high enough ASVAB score. ASVAB being just kind of a blanket entry-level aptitude test for all military service.
Along with the ASVAB test, volunteers for submarine duty go through a mental health screening and, according to the Navy, can be disqualified if they are diagnosed with depression or anxiety disorders, medical issues that don't necessarily disqualify applicants from other roles in the U.S. military.
Some of the mental stressors that sailors will be dealing with when they're out on deployment: feeling overwhelmed with the amount of responsibility and the amount of tasks that you're assigned, not being able to communicate with friends and family and loved ones back home.
Shooting 2-4, 3, 2, 1.
Students primarily train to work on next-generation Virginia-class submarines. This is what it's like inside one. About 377 feet long, the sub is powered by a nuclear reactor and loaded with explosive torpedoes. Sailors have to live and work in very tight spaces.
The students are demanded a high performance bar, and so they have the stress of performing very well to be able to get out to their submarine and be ready to execute their responsibilities. Our community, being as small as we are, approximately 130 to 140 people per submarine, relies on every single individual to perform their duties from the minute they walk on board.
Mishap. Any unplanned or unexpected event cause.
After weeks of classroom instruction, students confront the lethal risks on a submarine head-on in simulators, beginning with one specific nightmare scenario.
Flooding in the engine room. Damage control reported.
Fighting a flood on board. Students train inside what's known as the Damage Control Wet Trainer, which simulates flooding in the engine room due to ruptured pipes.
You
You want people to be able to respond quickly and accurately be able to report where the flooding casualty is and get people there as quickly and as organized as possible. Our trainer employs flows of up to 1,200 gallons per minute. We keep 4 instructors on staff at any time we're running the trainer. So there's gonna be one inside the trainer keeping an eye on safety. We then have a designated person behind a window that is also watching just for safety.
There was water constantly blowing in my eyes. Like, it felt like a really extreme water park almost. It was one of the most exciting experiences I've ever gotten to do.
And then push that gripper block up to the cutter head.
But before they enter the wet trainer, students learn how to use the tools that can repair the rupture and stop the flood.
All right, now how many personnel per leak? 2. Some of the tools that we expect our students to use, one of them is called a strong back. It's essentially just a curved piece of metal with a piece of rubber on it. That rubber is gonna be what actually creates the seal around the rupture and prevents the water from getting through.
Making sure that I could patch it up with just a normal metal patch. I can't even remember the name of it.
Strong back?
Strong back, yeah. Making sure that I can use the strong backs and chain wrench to get over the holes.
When you wrap the chain around the pipe, you want it to go into this channel right here. If you do not put the chain into that channel, you will not be able to hook the teeth onto the chain. Another one is called marlin. Marlin is just a hemp fiber. It's infused with tar. As it gets wet, it becomes sticky, and then that helps you clog up the rupture as you wrap it around the pipe. We all have our gloves on. We're gonna keep them on while we're in there.
The session lasts about 30 minutes. Instructors watch the students through a window that employs windshield wipers. And due to the noise level, they get the students' attention by waving flashlights and holding signs with text instructions.
A couple things instructors are looking for during the training session. First of all, making sure they're following all the safety tips that we gave them, making sure that they're keeping their positive control of all their tools, they're using proper egress when they're climbing up and down into the bilges so that they don't accidentally injure themselves. We're also making sure they use the tools correctly.
Time out, training time out. All students line up under the window.
We did have one training timeout. That training timeout was called because a student had removed their glove while inside the trainer.
Stand by to resume training. Students, resume training!
There is no other way to do it other than the way we taught them. There are instructions that tell you exactly how to use the tools, so we were watching closely on the camera feed to make sure that they're doing it correctly.
Take lights. Take lights on.
Some of the issues we recreate in our damage control wet trainer are simulation of loss of lighting. They are then going to use battle lanterns to help them see.
Straight down.
Damage control wet trainer was astonishingly interesting and fun. My heart's racing. It feels incredible. Sitting there with hundreds of gallons of water spraying at you, it's hard to breathe, so then you have to force yourself to do it. It's not easy, but they prepared us for it, and once we got in there, we knew what to do and got the job done.
This actually happened in both teams. You both said no damaged equipment.
Yeah, because we thought you were talking about like the bag itself and not the wall.
Ultimately, the students did do a very good job in combating the casualty. We did see a couple things here and there that were a threat to safety, if you will, but we were able to remediate the students, get them fixed, and then they were able to combat efficiently.
And New London, Connecticut Submarine School is jammed with new students, and there are long waiting lists of enlisted men who want submarine duty.
Founded in 1916, the school trains sailors to man the 71 U.S. Navy submarines actively serving around the world.
Submarines fill a very important role of being the first in the fight for anything the Navy wants. We are forward deployed all throughout the world, all times a day.
Gotta have the hold the ship stable, recommend going to the bridge. We specialize in anti-submarine warfare, surface warfare combat, and during peacetime we conduct reconnaissance and surveillance operations. Submariners make up the smallest portion of our military, and we have a proud, rich heritage dating back to World War II.
Battle station missile for days of launch.
Anywhere we need to be, we're going to be there. And the stuff that we provide is invaluable. I mean, most things we really can't talk about.
While submarines are powered by nuclear reactors, they can also carry nuclear weapons and explosive torpedoes.
All 118 sailors aboard the Kursk
died immediately after the accident.
In 2000, the entire crew of the Russian submarine Kursk perished after one of its torpedoes exploded, causing it to flood and sink. Which is why learning to control fires is paramount to survival on a submarine.
So fires on board a submarine, I would say, are fairly common. Most of the time it is something small. The purpose of this training that students went through today is to ensure that it does not grow beyond that. It is about immediate fire response. That way we can teach the submariners that are going to the fleet to fight and run towards a fire instead of running away. When you hear the general alarm, everybody immediately reacts as if their life depends on it, because at any moment, it absolutely can.
There are 3 risks that are associated with CO2. We have shock, we have suffocation, and we have freezing hazards.
Instruction starts in the classroom, where students learn about their gear and the different types of fires they will have to face.
You hold it by the hose. The reason why is because you do not want to cover the aerator nozzle. I, like my 4-year-old, love bubbles. But you can't have bubbles if you cover where the air is going to be part of.
Students' general reaction is that it may seem very basic, kind of dry and boring, but then that completely flips as soon as they come down into the trainer. And they're immediately expected to implement all of that knowledge. And I don't think a lot of them truly understand the gravity of that until they're seeing a fire that is, the length of the entire wall. So the firefighting simulator is essentially a big giant propane oven. So the fires get very, very large, very, very quickly.
Some of the different fires that students experience inside the fire trainer are a Class Alpha fire in the outboard of the ship, where students have to use a fire hose to basically fight the entire wall that is on fire in front of them. After that, they fight a liquid fire in the bilge, simulating an oil fire, and having to create a blanket of foam on top to suffocate that fire. And lastly, students also face an electrical fire, having to secure power so that electricity doesn't create the fire, make it worse, and then use a CO2 extinguisher to extinguish that fire.
Do not walk in this trainer, you understand? Move for the purpose.
The most important part of finding a fire and fighting it initially isn't actually getting agent onto the fire. It is to spread the word and letting everyone else know that there is a fire so that everyone can work together as a team to do the proper response to fight that fire.
It was incredible, actually. I had never been that close to a fire. I mean, I cook, but that's not a real fire, you know? You control that one, but this one was scary. It was scary because you just have this big wall of fire at you and it's hot and everything, you know, you feel it on your skin. But then actually putting it out with the extinguishers, it felt good, because then after, when the fire was out, you're like, you know, I did that. That was me. It was a good feeling.
They asked very effective questions, and then they were able to put out these fires, I would say, better than most classes that I see come through here.
Are you okay? I'm okay. Normal.
In the event of a catastrophe, after all damage control solutions have failed, the only remaining option is escape.
You okay? I'm okay.
Worst case scenario is their sub is disabled on the bottom of the ocean, and we need them to make that escape because they are now out of food, water, all rations, and they're quickly running out of air, breathable air on their submarine. So we give them the skills and the knowledge and the mindset and the confidence that when the time comes, they can help their shipmates make that escape, get to the surface, and assets will be ready to take care of them and get them home safely to their families.
Students train in the PSET, which stands for Pressurized Submarine Escape Trainer, where they learn how to escape the submarine and ascend to the surface. The tank is 37 feet deep, 20 feet wide, and holds 84,000 gallons of water. students enter 2 pressurized chambers attached to the tank, first at 15 feet, then at 37 feet. The chambers fill with water, and the students enter the tank through an open hatch before ascending to the surface. Before they enter the P-set, students must first pass a test inside a hyperbaric chamber that simulates the pressure felt at a depth of 60 feet.
Not everyone's bodies are suited to go under pressure, unfortunately. So we do that in a controlled environment in our hyperbaric facility here.
They have to perform what's called a Valsalva maneuver, which is essentially clearing their ears to make sure that their inner ear and outer ear are maintaining that same pressure, and that protects your ears.
This session abruptly stopped when one trainee experienced too much pressure in their ear.
How do you feel? Good. Pain or pressure? Just pressure.
You could feel the pressure. You could feel your ears popping every 2 seconds. You were told to constantly help your ears pop to release that pressure from your head. And you can feel your body starting to sweat when you were going into deeper pressure. It was a lot on the body.
I'm okay.
After coming out of the chamber, it was such a relieving feeling knowing that in a real life scenario, you would be able to handle the pressure that you're put upon. So it was an exciting feeling. Also knowing you would be able to go on with the course and do the actual trainers. I was very happy to be able to have passed that.
All right, so right now the water's gonna be coming up through the deck grate, starting to fill up. Don't worry about clearing.
The students are now ready for the first stage of the P-set, entering the chamber 15 feet below the surface.
Keep shifting, keep shifting.
Once the water is neck high, an instructor opens a hatch that leads into the tank. The students are pushed into the tank by another instructor before ascending to the surface.
The 15-foot is essentially a test to make sure that they can hold an exhalation rate of 6 to 8 seconds, and that we know that they can follow specific detailed information and that they can safely make an exhalation from 15 foot to the surface.
You're okay. I'm okay. They give you so many things to remember not to stop breathing, make sure you're breathing in and out, make sure your nose is plugged and your ears are popping throughout. They tell you to hold on to so many things, and it was definitely a lot going through your head, especially never having any experience in submerging in water. The biggest thing I thought about was how different this would be in a real life situation. You had to remember to take it seriously, because the reason for this trainer is to be ready if this were to happen in real life on a submarine.
Students then go deeper to the chamber 37 feet below the surface. They don an escape suit, which provides air to breathe during the escape.
The 37-foot trainer, that's the final boss, as they say, or the real deal.
Any questions?
Nope.
Being released from the pressurized compartment, it's definitely a lot on your body. You can feel the pressure in your head and in the air. It's such a relieving feeling, floating back up.
Are you okay?
There's so much they tell you to remember. You have to remember to keep your neck still, or else you won't be able to allow the air from the suit to go into your lungs. You have to remember not to turn your head or let go of the nozzle that you're attached to, or else you might float different ways than you're supposed to.
Get your power steps. All right, so you're like that, plugged in, you hold on to the T-handle, the water's filled up, you're clearing your ears, you're going to see a bunch of bubbles right in front of you, okay? You might even get jostled around a little bit.
Okay. Everything is so meticulously planned that if you don't follow a certain rule, you end up in a dangerous situation.
They will actually plug into an air system setup simulator like there would be on a submarine. We're actually going to flood up that space called the LET, the logistical escape trunk. They will now see that the suit does its job by maintaining a breathing source. It also will cause their buoyancy to start to take place. And then we're going to show them what it's like to actually make an escape.
Whenever the room filled up with water, I was making sure that my ears weren't going under pressure, which that was a big part of it. I almost didn't even notice the water rising with me. Once I had realized that it was all the way up to my chest, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Great name. FT Bay.
How do you feel? Did you breathe normally all the way to the surface?
I absolutely feel confident in that I could survive a submarine failure, because Even though I feel like it would be really hard to do in the moment, you know, just getting everything together, making sure that I could get out, I feel like I would calm myself down, get through it, and just make sure that I'm doing all the correct techniques that they taught us, and making sure that I stay calm and make sure that I can do it.
How was it?
It was fun.
Good.
I like this one more.
Than the 15 foot? Really?
100%.
One surprising rule the students have to follow during the escape training is to never hold their breath.
If you hold your breath, your lungs are going to expand, expand, expand. That air has to go somewhere. Eventually the walls of your lungs are going to fail you, and it's going to come out the wall cavity and cause issues on the internal side of your body. It's going to start shifting things, and air is going to go where it doesn't belong. With that being said, as long as you make that exhale, which is what we teach the submariners here, you're now allowing that air to escape out the way it should. It's tough to know how you're going to react in that moment, but we need them to know that the help is up above, not down below.
What'd you do wrong? Didn't see out.
Students learn survival techniques to employ once they've reached the surface. They use a suit known as the Submarine Escape Immersion Equipment, or SEIE, which comes with a life raft that keeps them afloat and protects them from the elements.
The raft is basically in a tent to encapsulate you, to block you from the wind, the sun, and temperatures. Along with that is also a very, very bright color, a fluorescent orange, so you can be seen from aerial views as planes, vessels, commercial vessels can see you hopefully coming in the distance if they're scouting for you.
Instructors manually simulate the motion of rough seas to give students an idea of the conditions they may face on the surface.
Once you make the escape from your submarine, you could be alone when you get to the surface. So with your suit and the knowledge and the skills we give you to survive on the ocean, waiting for assets to come and rescue you, along with your shipmates that will make that escape with you, we give them the necessary skills to survive, protect themselves from the weather, from the elements of the atmosphere.
Good job on surface survival, everyone. Give yourself a round of applause.
Seaman Recruit Bonner, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, ITSA School.
Friends and family gather to see the newest class of U.S. Navy submariners officially become part of the silent service.
I proudly serve my country's Navy combat team with honor, courage, and commitment.
One of my favorite parts of this job is seeing the transition that our sailors make as brand new sailors fresh out of boot camp that don't really know what being a submariner means, and watching them as they progress over the 8 weeks that they're here and leave here as ready to qualify in submarines. They are now submariners.
Booyah USS Trout! Booyah USS Trout! Booyah Submarine! Booyah Submarines! Booyah Navy! Booyah Navy! Booyah America! Booyah America!
The A-10 Warthog is one of the most beloved military aircraft ever. Its pilots are trained to fly missions that require what's called close air support, which can involve some pretty risky flying, historically resulting in more than 40 fatalities. This is the A-10 Thunderbolt II, more commonly known as the Warthog. The Air Force uses the A-10 for close air support, missions that require the plane to fly low to provide cover and assist ground troops in battle.
So our whole mission in life and our whole job in life is to take care of the men and women on the ground. It's the only thing we think about, it's the only thing we train to, it's the only thing we talk about, and it's exactly what this airplane is built to do.
But these pilots may be among the last to be trained to fly it. For years, the Air Force has considered retiring the A-10 in favor of the newer F-35 fighter jet. And that might finally be happening with Congress approving the Air Force's plan to phase out the A-10 over the next 5 to 6 years. But the public debate over the need for the A-10 continues. And while some A-10s are as much as 50 years old, F-35s cost about $60 million more per aircraft and weren't built solely to support ground troops.
There may be a day that I am called to potentially help save someone's life when they're having the worst day of their life. That comes back to my training and making sure that I know what I'm doing in the jet.
So how vital is the A-10? And could the Air Force soon be without one of its most iconic warplanes?
So the only base that A-10 pilots train at is at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base.
Before they fly the A-10, pilots train in the T-38 Talon during their initial flight training in Texas.
They fly completely different based on their flight performance and characteristics.
The T-38 is kind of like a sports car. It's quick, it's agile, it's fast. But the A-10 drives more like a Cadillac.
After graduating from flight training, new pilots move to their assigned posts.
Really liked the mission of the A-10 and thought it was super cool. I like the idea that it doesn't matter what I'm doing, that I'm strictly there for people on the ground.
If you look at it, not the most attractive looking plane, if you will. It's pretty ugly. It doesn't have the swept back wings. It's got, big Hershey bar wings on it for like added stability. So it's just a mean looking airplane, and that's ultimately like what a Warthog is.
What sound does the A-10 make when it fires?
Like bird, 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 bird. And that's actually just the noise of the bullets exiting the barrel.
This is the Galway Avenger. It's a 30mm Gatling gun. It's built by General Electric, and this is the largest Gatling gun ever built and put into an airplane. So it's got it's 7 barrels. It shoots at a maximum rate about 3,900 rounds a minute. There's almost no target that the Galway is not a valid weapon to use against. As we go around, the titanium bathtub is one of the features designed specifically to protect the pilot in the airplane. So this whole panel right here, where you see these giant Phillips head looking fasteners, that whole panel is titanium, so you can hear all these are hollow aluminum, and that's rock solid titanium right there. This was one of the first fighter types that incorporated that into the design of the airplane, and it's the only one I know about that has a full bathtub encompassing the pilot. Behind this panel right here, this is our single point refueling system right here, so pull that cap off and fill the airplane up with fuel. We have 4 fuel tanks for a total of about 11,000 pounds of gas. If I'm topped off, I can fly for about 3 hours. And then once you add in aerial refueling, we can fly pretty much indefinitely. And then as you're looking towards the back of the airplane, you can see we have a lot of hard points, a lot of weapon stations on the airplane. There's 11 in total. And between those, we can carry up to 16,000 pounds of ordnance on those 11 weapon stations. This is a Mark 82 bomb body, so a 500-pound bomb body, just a blast and fragmentation type weapon that you drop it, it's unguided on impact, and it detonates. This is a GBU-31. This is a 2,000-pound bomb with a GPS guidance kit on the back of it. So it's a coordinate-seeking weapon, meaning I can input a GPS coordinate, and that's exactly where that weapon's going to go.
But how does the A-10 stack up to the F-35 meant to replace it? Supporters of the F-35 say it has a huge stealth advantage, but detractors say it doesn't have the durability the A-10 does thanks to features like the titanium bathtub. Another concern is how F-35 pilots are trained. Insider reported that according to a 2022 training memo, no F-35 pilots are required to execute close air support training simulations in 2023 or 2024. For A-10 pilots, close air support is at the center of their training, which starts here in a virtual reality simulator lab.
So they're going to start off in the VR lab, and that's going to give them the sight pictures and the references on the ground and the references in the aircraft for the first time.
Put that up. Hear the ECU kicking on.
So simulators are extremely important. They're able to practice everything in a safe environment with, professional instructors before they get out and actually fly them on their own.
Students familiarize themselves with the A-10's control panels and starting procedures before moving on to the flight simulator.
We're going to open our air-to-air refueling door at this point.
He was doing aerial refueling. It's a mission that the students actually perform in the aircraft pretty early in their training pipeline. Historically, without this lesson, it's usually taken about 10 to 15 minutes of talking to the student through getting the successful hookup in flight. Whereas now that we're able to have them practice with this lesson, they go out on that first flight having already done it before.
We want to take a look at our airspeed as we're in formation with the tanker.
Now the feedback we're getting from instructors is that they're just going right up to the boom and they're getting their hookup on their first try.
For the VR sim, you're getting the muscle memory. So the first time we practice it in the jet, we know physically what we're doing with our hands, and we know where our eyes should be, where we should gauge, and then our IPs are helping us fine-tune those things.
After spending a month in the simulator and learning the basic operations of the aircraft, pilots begin flying training missions in the A-10. Captain Lindsay "Mad" Johnson has 5 years of experience flying the A-10. Today, she's training for a new role to be a pilot on an A-10 demo team, where she will highlight the capabilities of the Warthog.
I am about 2 hours shy of 1,200 hours in the A-10 itself. They call it like a crawl, walk, run process. So I did it in the sim multiple times. Then we go out to the airspace for my first time with a floor, not actual floor, but a simulated floor of 5,000 feet AGL. And then I go here, 2,000 feet AGL, 1,000 feet AGL, and then 500 feet AGL until I got through my first certification.
After Johnson completed a few rolls and dives, she moved on to simulating a strafe, which is an attack on enemy ground forces, a technique used in close air support operations.
So when we do close air support, we are egressing, as they say it, from in front of the target area. I'm going out about 2.5 miles away at about 500 feet, and then I'm turning back around this way. And as I'm about just outside of a mile, I'll pop to about 30 degrees nose high, which allows me to get high enough to be able to see there is what would be designated as the friendlies and what would be designated as the enemy on the ground. And then as I visually acquire that out over my canopy rail, I'm then rolling in using both ailerons. My throttles are already in max. I'm rolling in, and then I'm putting basically my nose position down on what we consider to be like a 20-degree wire. So rather than flying straight and level, I'm 20 degrees nose low towards the ground. I learned about the A-10 growing up. I knew I wanted to do something kind of to pay homage to my dad's time in service. I was young when September 11th happened. I was 9, and he deployed 2 months after September 11th happened. That kind of stuck with me, and I knew I wanted to do something that was going to give back to my country as well.
The A-10 debuted in combat in 1977, making it just shy of 50 years old, which is one reason many want it to be retired. For years, the Warthog has been the subject of debate between the U.S. Air Force and Congress. Some members of Air Force leadership have suggested retiring the A-10 to focus on developing more modern aircraft, like the $80 million F-35.
Then why would you want to retire the least expensive, most accurate close air support system?
I don't want to retire it, Senator. But the Air Force has to get bigger to do all this.
But Congress has fought those requests due to the success of the A-10 in recent conflicts with ISIS and the Taliban, and the plane's overall cost efficiency.
It's tried and true. It's very rudimentary with the systems that it has, but why fix something that's not broke? It's been in every conflict that the United States has been in since Bosnia, Grenada, pretty much every contingent that the United States has been a part of. The A-10 has been pretty much the leader of all that.
Last year, Congress approved an Air Force proposal to retire 21 A-10s, reducing the total fleet to 260, with plans to decommission the remaining planes in the next 5 to 6 years.
People don't realize how much maintenance actually goes into keeping these aircraft airworthy. It's not like a car, When we wake up in the morning, we jump in the car, start it, and drive, right? These have starting issues, they have leaks, they're 40, 50 years old. They all have somewhere between 13,000 to 15,000 flight hours on them, and that exceeds the actual life expectancy of the airframe by, 5,000, 7,000 hours.
A-10 critics may use the plane's maintenance issues to fuel their argument, but the cost of maintaining the F-35 jumped 15% between 2018 and 2020.
What happens to you when you finish the training?
Once we all finish, we'll go to the different assigned bases, so I'll be going to Korea next. It's just fun to fly. It does a job that no one else does, and you're good at that. That is your thing. That's the A-10's thing.
After completing the 6-month training program at Davis-Monthan, newly certified A-10 pilots will begin their careers as fighter pilots in the U.S. Air Force.
The plane was built well before I was alive, and knowing just like the generations of people that flew the plane before me were looking at the exact same gauges that I'm looking at. So it's a pretty unique experience. I knew as like a younger child that I wanted to fly the A-10. My grandpa was in the Army. He has seen the A-10 like when he was in the Army do things, and so that was even more just like a further drive to pursue the airplane.
While everybody knows us for the gun and its capabilities, a thing that we take most pride in as an A-10 community is protecting the lives of the men and women that are on the ground.
The U.S. Border Patrol is dealing with a humanitarian crisis at the border, but they are law enforcement officers. And at the Border Patrol Academy, they learn techniques related to hand-to-hand combat, firearms, and driving. And many Border Patrol officers killed in the line of duty die in vehicular accidents.
Close your eyes.
This is Border Patrol Boot Camp. Before they serve in the United States Border Patrol, all trainees have to graduate from the Border Patrol Academy's 6-month basic training program.
From day one, our goal is to make sure that they are prepared to handle anything that they may encounter in the field, no matter what obstacle is thrown at them.
On a hot week in April, amid an intensifying border crisis, we spent 4 days inside the academy, allowing us to observe different classes at various stages of the 6-month training program, and to find out if the training is adequately preparing these future Border Patrol agents for what awaits them in the field. During our visit to the academy in April, most of the training that we saw focused on law enforcement scenarios, like this one.
¡Señor, no se mueva! ¡Señor porterista, no se mueva! ¡Ay! ¡Stop! Drop that gun! ¡No se mueva, señor!
I'd consolidate him over here if I had to.
The Border Patrol is a law enforcement agency, but are these future agents getting the training they need for the humanitarian crisis at the border? After being initially screened at the border, migrants seeking asylum in the U.S. are held in detention centers. Many of these centers are operated by the Border Patrol in conjunction with other government agencies, and their conditions have become the object of intense scrutiny. Although the Border Patrol is tasked with operating detention centers, we didn't see any training during our visit to the academy,
Ustedes por estos permisos?
aside from learning to communicate in Spanish, that was specifically focused on working in the centers. So what kind of training do Border Patrol agents get at the academy? And how did we get here in the first place? The Border Patrol was established in 1924 with 2 stations, at the U.S.-Mexico border in El Paso and near the Canadian border in Detroit. Its main objective? Combating bootleggers smuggling liquor during Prohibition.
Whenever illegal hooch or beer was discovered by the feds, it met the same fate. Crack open the kegs and let the contents flow down the drain.
It was a very bloody time. We lost over 31 officers during that time period. There were times when there were shootouts 2 or 3 times a day for a whole month.
We still like to remember that once upon a time, Texas had its own president. When we built our capital at Austin, we built it big, like the one at Washington. Texas begins where Mexico leaves off. And nowadays, along the whole 1,000 miles of frontier, the Border Patrol's on the job, day and night.
In the 1950s, the number of migrants crossing from Mexico spiked, and the Eisenhower administration responded with an initiative officially known as Operation Wetback. Over 1 million Mexican migrants were deported, and Border Patrol enforcement activities plummeted. That is, until the 70s. Amid the flow of illegal drugs from Mexico, the number of deportations skyrocketed to the highest levels in decades.
Okay, units, let's shut it off. Same positions.
There's enough to keep us busy for a while.
Since then, illegal crossings have increased, and the Border Patrol has continued to be scrutinized for allegations of mistreatment toward migrants.
The U.S. Customs and Border Protection has launched an investigation into a secret Facebook group where thousands of Border Patrol agents posted sexist memes and joked about migrant deaths.
According to ProPublica, the group had around 9,500 members.
We take all of the posts that were put out today very seriously. These do not represent the thoughts of the men and women of the U.S. Border Patrol.
So who joins the Border Patrol? Today, around 19,000 men and women actively serve in the Border Patrol. Only 5% of the agency is female.
35!
The biggest gender gap of any agency in the federal government.
Slowly, get on your feet!
More than half of the 19,000 active Border Patrol agents are Hispanic.
A lot of our agents who are Hispanic grew up on the southwest border, so they grew up around Border Patrol agents. We are honored that over half of the Border Patrol agents are a minority, serve as the majority in the Border Patrol. They want to protect and serve the communities where they grew up and where they're from.
So how are Border Patrol agents prepared for the field? Basic training happens here at the Border Patrol Academy in Artesia, New Mexico, about 200 miles from the U.S.-Mexico border. Artesia is known for 3 major exports: refined oil, pecans, and Border Patrol agents. Every year, around 1,000 trainees graduate from the academy before heading to the field. Before they get to Artesia, incoming trainees meet in El Paso and board a bus that takes them to the academy.
I first decided to go to the Marines and gain some experience and eventually come into law enforcement.
I was in the Army. I had an urge to continue my career path. I just wanted something a little bit more different. So I did my research, and Border Patrol was pretty much up that alley to what I was looking for.
Well, it's a symbol of excellence, a symbol of pride that people are willing to defend the United States of America in a very thankless, dangerous job. So those type of people deserve respect, and I want to be one of those types of people.
The Border Patrol says that thousands more agents are needed in the field, but has historically struggled to recruit and retain them.
Get out that move! Get down! Get on! Get on there! Let's go, sir! Hurry up, you better move yourself! A little bit! They sit there walking around! How about you freaking sound off, sir? Sound off! Yes, sir! Sound off! Yes, sir!
For the next few hours, the new class will experience Entry on Duty.
Stop shaking already!
Or EOD.
Get back here! Stop! Get back! What was that?
Which forces trainees to follow basic commands under extreme psychological stress.
You had one step to take, and you decided to take a shortcut. Louder than me! Yes, sir! You're not louder than me yet! Yes, sir! How are you gonna arrest 20 people if you can't even speak loudly?
They're gonna be put under stress, and there's a reason behind that.
Why? Why?
They have to be able to think, they have to be able to receive instruction, they have to be able to make decisions, and then they have to be able to execute those decisions or actions under stress.
You better get back over there with the rest of them! It's starting up! Hurry up!
I appreciate they're here, I understand the sacrifice, their commitment to duty. However,
answer your voice!
You are now a Border Patrol trainee and you're gonna start getting indoctrinated into our world and get prepared for this profession.
Why are you shaking? Why are you shaking? He's scared. And that's what's going to happen when he gets to the field. He's going to be scared. He ain't making it to the field. Going to be scared, going to shake. You think that's going to look good? No, sir. You think the criminals are going to like that? No, They're going to look at you and go, I got him. He's mine. But we'll teach you. We'll teach you how not to be scared. Back up. The last I checked, sir, R does not come right before T and in between S. Am I wrong? Why are you staring at me? Huh? Aren't you an adult?
Yes, sir.
My 2-year-old can take responsibility, sir. Fix yourself. Go find the S's.
Active trainees are allowed to observe EOD, but when an officer caught a group of them laughing and joking, they were quickly corrected.
If that happens again, it will end. Shift! Day 0. Nothing's even started yet.
No one's forcing you to be here. You're welcome to leave anytime you like.
Are you looking for a way out?
No, sir.
The way out is on the bus.
You just decided to look at me. I feel like you're ready to quit tonight. You ready, sir?
After this session, we learned that some instructors were addressed about using language that encouraged trainees to quit, even though it was part of the intended stress inoculation.
We're not trying to get people to quit. That's certainly not the intent. Our senior leadership historically and now has been supportive of the fact that, yes, absolutely, we need more agents out there on the line getting the job done, but that we don't need to lower our standards in order to accomplish that.
You better put that pen away, sir. You make me nervous with that pen. Like you want to stab me with it. Do you want to stab me right now, sir? Try it. See how far you get. Maybe you should wear your.
The new trainees are issued uniforms,
Get my face! Hurry up, you!
but the high stress levels endure.
Get over there where you belong! Fold the damn pants! Do they button or do they not button? No, sir! Jesus Christ! They're not running around you!
These periods of stress inoculation or intentional induction of that high stress levels, it goes up, it goes down.
Let's go! Hurry up!
And these things subside.
There you go. Good teamwork. Exactly what I want to see.
Start working together! Help each other out!
Do the right thing when nobody's looking.
As the sun begins to set on EOD, the tone from the instructors has obviously started to change.
We will become brothers and sisters. Trust me when I'm telling you this. You will succeed if you listen to me. Everybody's got to work together as a team.
Yes, sir.
You join the Border Patrol, that's part of a family. Start acting like you, start helping each other out.
The only way you people are going to make it through this academy is by helping each other out. But if you don't help and take care of your classmates, you won't make it, and they won't make it. Do you understand? Yes, sir! None of y'all want to go home? No, sir! Then you better take care of each other.
The Border Patrol Academy sits on 3,000 acres of rugged terrain, featuring life-size sectional replicas of border fences.
Rotate! Rotate!
When the trainees graduate, they'll leave with 14 different certifications. Some learned inside the classroom, but most learned outside. And it all starts with fitness. Trainees spend 178 hours in the physical techniques department. Since some field agents work on the water, trainees also have to spend time in the pool, where they prepare to jump from high elevations using this, an apparatus known as Jacob's Ladder, with a vertical drop of 30 feet. If these trainees appear a little uneasy, it's because they're about to experience perhaps the most dreaded part of training: OC exposure.
Right.
OC stands for oleoresin capsicum, more commonly known as pepper spray.
You've got to know how you're going to react if someone attacks you with the same thing. I have had one of my agents sprayed with that stuff by a murder suspect. They've got to know what it's going to do to them should it be used against us.
After being sprayed,
Look over here.
the trainees have to describe vehicles parked hundreds of yards away.
Tell me how many cars do you see?
2 cars, 1 white bus. You'd have to open your eyes up in order to see. In order to see the suspect, you have to open your eyes up.
3.
No, there's not. You have to open your eyes in order to see.
4.
You're gonna have to fight through it. 2. All right, come on, come on.
The trainee must then confront an assailant.
U.S. Border Patrol, get down on the ground! Get down on the ground!
Good hit.
Get down on the ground!
Detain him, and successfully call for backup.
Kilo 17, Tango 30, Tango 35.
10-4. Back up.
Come on, Roger.
Finally, they're able to wash off the OC. But the pain lingers.
So how do you feel now? You seem okay.
My face is on fire. This is probably the worst thing I've felt. Not be able to see, I can't even see for the past 30, 45 minutes. My nose burning and everything, it's pretty bad.
I think if we're putting our suspects out there through the same thing we're going through, we might as well feel what it feels like just to know how to use the actual tools properly.
Backup's on the way, backup!
It's definitely torture, but it's a good kind of pain.
Vehicle 1 through 6. Go, 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 go.
Another major component of training is driving.
Go, we have a green light, all vehicles are good.
When they leave the academy, most of their day they're going to be operating within a vehicle. That will be their office for the day. They may be out in the desert in some rough terrain. They may be called to pursue a vehicle at high rates of speed.
Sir, get your hands out of your pockets.
The students are running through a scenario
Get on your knees, sir!
that trains them to deal with what to do after they perform an offensive driving technique.
Trainees spend over 130 hours with the firearms department.
While they're at the Border Patrol Academy, a single trainee will shoot 6,000 rounds of the pistol ammunition and about 10,000 rounds of the rifle. We start very slowly. We just initially give them a firearm and we say, okay, look at this weapon. Touch this weapon. There's no ammunition, there's no magazine. Let's take the weapon out of the holster. Let's start getting acclimated to how this weapon feels. And then we move on to the precision part. We fire the weapon and we see where the rounds go. So they're taking everything that we have taught them and they're now putting it together with movement. And that really is the culmination of everything that we're trying to do here.
Make sure you guys can get to your magazine pouches. Make sure you can get to your pistol holster.
Once the trainees learn how to use firearms, they then learn when to use them. And more importantly, when not to. This exercise is known as judgment. Trainees face off with role players who may or may not be a threat. Some role players are armed with weapons, others only with cell phones. The trainees have to make a split-second decision of whether or not to draw and fire. The trainees apply their skills in a variety of tactical scenarios, such as a hostage situation with an active shooter.
Hands on the wall, feet apart.
We get our learning objectives from what the field is telling us they need.
In this scenario, trainees learn how to interdict a group of drug smugglers trying to cross illegally into the United States.
Let's get her done quickly.
We use a lot of role playing, a lot of role players, both from the local area as well as detailed agents and instructors here at the Academy assigned on a rotational basis.
¿Cuánto tiempo, señor? Por favor, me está hinchando mucho, por favor.
Llega en 30 minutos.
The hired role players play a huge part in perhaps the most important aspect of training at the Academy.
¿Está usted aquí en los Estados Unidos ilegalmente?
Spanish.
Por estar en los Estados Unidos, señorita, ilegalmente está bajo arresto.
Over 90% of the individuals that we arrest will only speak the Spanish language, or the Spanish language will be their first language.
Es falso. Su documento es falso.
No sé por qué. Yo soy Vicente González Flores.
We don't expect them to be fluent Spanish speakers, but we do expect them to at least be able to have a conversation, to communicate with them efficiently and safely more than anything. That way they are able to safely do their job.
¿Necesita una ambulancia?
Sí, sí, por favor.
¿Cuántos años tiene usted?
49.
49?
Sí.
Trainees spend 182 hours with the Spanish department. While that's the most time spent in one specific department, it represents less than a fifth of their total curriculum, most of which is focused on law enforcement.
Azul derecho.
What we did not observe during our time in Artesia were any scenarios that specifically involved working in detention centers or caring for children, which is a daily responsibility of some Border Patrol agents working in the field. In regards to how trainees are instructed to work with children, the CBP spokesperson told Business Insider that the Border Patrol Academy trains and teaches agents about policies and regulations related to the current case precedent that governs children in short-term custody. We asked CBP what level of responsibility the Academy should bear in terms of preparing Border Patrol agents to deal with the current situation at many processing centers. They said the Border Patrol Academy has implemented the Medical Emergency Decision Scenarios, or MEDS, into its curriculum.
¿Dónde le duele?
El estómago.
This is a medical response, so they have to approach the injured subject. They have to determine what is wrong with the injured subject. That way they are able to get the subject help as soon as possible.
Naciste el marzo 16 de marzo.
This is not a scenario. This footage was shot at the U.S.-Mexico border in El Paso, where Border Patrol agents have to screen hundreds of migrants crossing into the U.S. every day and oversee crowded detention centers where the migrants wait for days and even weeks to be processed. As a new class prepares to graduate, are they ready for what awaits them in the field? On graduation day, friends and family make the trip to Artesia to see their loved ones before they're deployed.
Honor Guard! Retire the colors! Close ranks! Out!
Less than 100 years, and we have 128 line of duty deaths. That's more than one a year. That's too many.
At the beginning of training, each trainee is issued a silent partner, one of the 128 Border Patrol agents killed in action, represented by a card that they carry with them at all times.
This is what we're trying to change. Mistakes we've made in the field, things that we've done wrong. Hopefully nothing ever bad happens to one of your loved ones, but in the case that it does, you'll always be part of this Border Patrol family.
We're going to prepare them from day one how to take care of themselves, their partners, the people that they encounter. Treat them just like they would want a family member to be treated, and then go home to their families. I want them to look back and say, every day I was willing to put my life on the line for this country, and I served admirably, and I made a difference in the protection of America.
Meanwhile, boot camp is just beginning for Class 1120. That's the group we first met on the bus from El Paso, and we were on hand for the message that Academy Chief Daniel Harris delivered to the class on day one of their training.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, class. My name is Dan Harris, Jr., and I am the chief of the United States Border Patrol Academy. And there are a few things that I need to tell you that you need to hear directly from me. I promise you're going to have to take someone's freedom away. And you are going to get that right when you leave here. Let's hope you don't ever have to take someone's life away. But you're asking me to give you the authority to do both of those things. And let me be crystal clear. If you bring dishonor to the United States Border Patrol, if you bring dishonor to the uniform you are wearing, I'm going to fire you. Is that understood?
Yes, sir!
Every single class tells me that same thing. There are men and women out there on the street on patrol right now in the desert who need you as their backup.
They need your help out there right now. I need you to graduate from this academy. But again, nothing will be given to you. I wish the best of luck to all of you, and the next time I talk to you will be day 112. I'll see you then. On your feet. All yours.
Part of the job for many Secret Service agents is being ready to put their lives on the line to protect important people. And with the recent assassination attempts made on President-elect Donald Trump, the stakes are higher than ever.
The Secret Service has a zero-fail mission. A zero-fail mission. What that means in layman's terms, ladies and gentlemen, is this. You don't get a bad day in the Secret Service. Somebody tell me in this room right now, what would happen if the Secret Service failed at its zero-fail mission? If one of us decided that we stayed out late the night before, we got up late, we let the wrong person get by us. Something happened to the President of the United States. Would it be business as usual that next day? Any ideas? Tell me what you think. Would there be any changes the next day after something happened to the President? What do you think would happen to other foreign militaries' postures around the world? What do you think would happen to the stock market here and abroad? How would it affect you? How would it affect your family members? What would happen to your family's 401ks and retirement plans? You think those things would plummet? You think there'd be worldwide panic and anxiety? That's exactly what would happen. Times 10. That is now your responsibility. That is now the weight on your shoulders. That is what the responsibility you are accepting by taking this job and showing up here today. So I want you to take this moment and say to yourself, am I ready for that level of responsibility? Is that what I want to do? You've earned this seat. We've congratulated you. Now you have to earn it every single day.
You okay, man?
Mother.
Hey, put the bat down. Drop the bat. Police, drop the bat.
I want you to take all the notions that you have about what we do in the Secret Service that you've seen on the movies and on TV shows, and I want you to throw it out the window.
This is Secret Service Boot Camp. Before they join the Secret Service, all recruits have to graduate from the agency's 6-month training program. Training happens here at the James J. Rowley Training Center in Laurel, Maryland, located about 20 miles north of Washington.
Welcome to the James J. Rowley United States Secret Service Training Center.
On day 1, a new class of recruits arrives at the academy.
Have a seat. Every one of you sitting here right now, there was about 100 other applicants that tried to get the seat that you have earned. How did you earn that seat? You earned that seat by getting through our very, very difficult and in-depth vetting process. And you should be congratulated. And I hope you celebrated, because the celebration time is over. Now's the time for business. Everybody clear on that? On Saturday, you will depart.
Before they begin their Secret Service specific training, these recruits will spend 3 months at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Artesia, New Mexico.
Get back in the building now!
Before returning to Maryland for 3 more months of focused training that includes driving, marksmanship, hand-to-hand combat, and realistic threat scenarios. We spent 3 days at the training center, where we observed recruits at various stages of training.
It's going to be a long week.
For the new class, their first week focuses on a physical evaluation.
Let's go. Don't stop.
And getting rid of any bad habits they may have brought into the academy.
We left yesterday without chairs being pushed in, and now we can't pay attention to detail 1 minute after the detail's given out. And we're laughing and joking in here. It is going to be an extremely long week. Do not make plans for Friday getting out of here on time, because that ain't happening.
Although we were allowed to film inside the academy, our access was limited, and we were only able to film certain aspects of training, the rest of which remained secret.
There's certain things that we will not be able to show yourself or any other members of the media here, and that's really for the safety of our protectees. We don't want to advertise our playbook, so to speak.
For example, we weren't able to film any training that incorporated this partial replica of Air Force One, used to create specific scenarios where the president is threatened.
We don't want to give people specifics into our protective methodologies that we have in place for some of our protection. Clearly, some of those things we cannot share, and that's really to make sure that we're not giving any sort of an advantage to any of our adversaries out there.
The United States Secret Service, America's first line of defense against the counterfeiter and the crank.
The Secret Service was founded in 1865. Its primary mission? To combat the counterfeiting of U.S. currency.
The famed Secret Service, whose foremost duty is protecting the President of the United States and his family.
The Secret Service began its protective mission after the 1901 assassination of President William McKinley.
I am the President's personal bodyguard. I go where he goes. I want to say that anybody who has no business with him better look out. And believe me, I don't mean maybe.
Since the Secret Service began its protective mission, the president has remained a target. Since 1901, President Kennedy has been the sole president to die at the hands of an assassin, despite numerous attempts by others. Like in 1994, when a gunman opened fire on the White House while President Clinton watched a football game inside.
Due to the weight of our protective mission, we have to make sure that anyone in those positions is truly worthy of trust and confidence, which is our motto here. We're getting ready to go into another campaign year, so we have to build up our workforce in order to help support that.
The base salary for new agents and officers starts as low as $47,000 a year. Potential recruits apply on the Secret Service website, but most applicants are eliminated during an intense vetting process.
Generally, it takes quite a long time in order to get through our screening process. The very in-depth background checks, qualification to obtain a top secret clearance and maintain one, to undergo a polygraph examination, successfully pass that. They have a lot to be proud of just for the fact that they're sitting here.
Stay right there. One thing to understand, guys, this is not a video game.
In this exercise, recruits interact with a video screen that plays a scenario involving a potential threat to a protectee.
Search up! Hey, stop moving! Stop moving!
And are judged on how quickly they're able to assess and respond to the threat.
So, there's the gun I knew I was going to find. What can I do with this?
Recruits also engage with role players who create realistic law enforcement scenarios.
I'll check it over here, officer.
Working in motor vehicles plays a big part in training in what the Academy calls protective transportation. Recruits train behind the wheel of high-speed Dodge Chargers and Chevy Suburbans.
The Secret Service's mission is to get protectees safely from point A to point B. The training that we provide enhances that mission, that foundational driving that they are going to need to be effective Secret Service agents.
All right, everybody ready? All right.
Recruits also experience a rollover simulator to prepare them for what it's like inside a vehicle that's flipped over.
Next four up.
The instructor allowed us in the simulator.
I'm upside down.
To experience it from the inside. Recruits spend hours on the firing range. They cross paths with active agents who've come back to the academy for in-service training. Recruits engage in water-based scenarios, including being challenged to escape from this apparatus, which simulates being trapped in a helicopter that's flipped upside down underwater.
You guys good? Still want to be here?
Yes, ma'am.
You guys ready to do some team tactics?
Yes, ma'am.
Recruits learn control tactics, used to detain and subdue an assailant. Male and female recruits train together throughout basic training. Of the approximately 7,000 people in the Secret Service, less than 25% are female.
I'm gonna come around and check your seals one more time.
One of the most challenging parts of training occurs when the recruits are exposed to tear gas. Holy Oof, it is burning my eyes. We couldn't bring our camera inside the gas chamber, but we did convince an officer to shoot inside with an iPhone, showing us what it's like for recruits when they're exposed to the gas.
Here we go. Good job. Good job.
We weren't allowed to interview recruits during training or to film at graduation. Once training is complete, these future agents and officers begin their zero-fail mission against the backdrop of an intense election year in a nation divided by politics.
We protect the office of the president. We're not political appointees. It doesn't matter to us who the people elect. We're going to protect those individuals with the same zealousness that we would regardless. Political opinions don't come into play at all. What we're focused on is training, preparing them to do the job that they're going to need to do, and that's all that counts for us.
These are just some of the most dangerous jobs that service members are training for that we've covered on boot camp. What are some other dangerous jobs that service members train for? Let us know in the comments.